courage and tenacity. This is not one of those stories. Instead, this is a story how fear can bring us face to face with our limitations and our real human vulnerabilities. As I share my story, see if you can relate to having similar feelings in a situation of your own. My story begins when my husband Gordon and I were first married. He had his pilot's license and an airplane, a Cessna 172. I thought it would be a good idea if I learned how to fly. That way we would both be pilots. It took me about a year of study and lessons, and I was extremely proud when I got my license. Shortly after that, I received an invitation from my former college roommate to her wedding in Newport, Oregon. With my newly minted pilot's wings, I said, "Gordon, let's fly down." We decided he would fly the lake down, and I would fly the lake back home. The trip down was glorious. Me, the proud new pilot, Gordon, my trusty navigator, and everything went smoothly until we got close to the Oregon coast. Marine air was pushing weather and clouds on shore, and as the clouds got closer and closer to the ground, I had to fly lower and lower to get under them. Just when I thought we would have to turn around, we located the airport. When I saw that runway straight ahead, I knew there'd be no fancy landing pattern for me. I took the radio. "This is 739 X-ray Mike on final approach for runway 29er, over." And I went straight in, and I landed safely. The next few days were occupied with wedding festivities, but always in the back of my mind lingered an uneasy, anxious feeling as I watched the clouds hang over the coast. When the day dawned for us to fly home, much to my dismay, it was overcast and drizzly. When we got to the airport, we readied the airplane. We untied the tie-downs from the wings. We called for the weather report. We talked to the airport personnel. You see, Gordon and I were VFR-rated pilots, which stands for Visual Flight Rules, which means we had to be able to see where we were going to fly. We couldn't fly through the clouds. We waited several hours, drinking coffee, pacing back and forth in that dingy airport office, hoping the weather would clear. All of a sudden, the clouds opened up right over the airport, and we received clearance to fly VFR. Gordon's plan was to go up through that opening, and since the clouds were low enough, we could fly over the top of them. And by the time we got to Wenatchee, we'd be out of the clouds. It seemed like a good plan at the time. We took off, and Gordon went up through that opening, and pretty soon we were flying over a sea of clouds. The opening quickly disappeared behind us, and all I could see in any direction was white. I'm going to listen to no weather report, so I tuned into the proper frequency. When the man's voice came on, I heard him say, "Wenatchee, cloudy." Alarmed, I turned to Gordon. "He says it's cloudy in Wenatchee. How are we going to get down?" Immediately, I thought the very worst. How are we going to get down without hitting a mountain or slamming into the ground? What other airports could we go to? Ellensburg? Yakima? Spokane? What if they were sucked in too? How far could we go without running out of fuel? Suddenly, Gordon's voice penetrated through my cloud of fear. I heard him say, "Wenatchee, clear." What? No, he said cloudy. I heard him distinctly. The trip to Wenatchee was going to take several hours, so I decided to just try to relax and wait for the weather to clear. I waited about 10 minutes. I'll listen again. Wenatchee, cloudy. Gordon, it's still cloudy in Wenatchee. How are we going to get down? Leigh, he said Wenatchee, clear. No, he didn't. He said cloudy. By now, I'm in a panic. I reached for the radio again, and Gordon put out his hand. No, cannot turn on the radio. Being being petrified plus drinking multiple cups of coffee is not a good combination for smaller brain. The minutes ticked by excruciatingly slow as I constantly scanned the horizon for any sign of land in that endless white below. Finally, after an eternity, we arrived in Wenatchee, and it was crystal clear. I have never been so happy to get my feet on the ground as I was that time, and I'm sure Gordon felt the same way, but possibly for different reasons than my own. As I reflect back on that trip, I am constantly amazed how clearly I heard the words that I did, and how confident I was that they were true. That experience gave me a graphic example of how fear can distort our reality and direct our behavior in ways we aren't even aware. The moral of this story is that we don't necessarily see things how they really are. We see things from how we are. But one piece that I would like you to take away from my speech today is to ask yourself this question. Where in your life do you let fear rule your reality? When do you take your own flight of fantasy? And how might that prevent you from seeing the forest for the trees, or, as in my case, from seeing the land from the clouds?